gonna get mad in this review, but I got really mad. So fair warning. Hey guys, it's Trina, and this is my series review over the Gemma Doyle trilogy by Libba Bray. I really did not like this series, so this is going to be a negative review. If this is like your favorite series and you don't like to hear people pointing out its flaws, or if you just really don't like negative reviews because they work you up, because sometimes I get like that, then this will be a video that you want to skip. But if you want to know what I didn't like and why I found it extremely problematic and why this is the worst thing that I've read yet this year, then keep watching because I will explain why. It is a trilogy, so there are 3 books in this series, and the books in order are A Great and Terrible Beauty, Rebel Angels, and The Sweet Far Thing. This is young adult historical fiction with a fantasy supernatural element of magic to it. So this is about a young girl that grew up in India, and when her mother dies, she is shipped off to an English boarding school where young ladies in the late 1800s go to like refine their manners and learn how to come out to society and catch a man. And at this school she discovers this secret sisterhood of witches. So the first thing that I want to say about this series is that these books were published from 2003 till 2007. So it's an older series. It's over 10 years old. Because this series was written in the early 2000s, for me, reading it now, 10 years after it was published, when I've been a reader my entire life, I've read so much historical fiction, I've read so much fantasy, this did not stand up in any way, shape, or form. I really don't like this magic system in this world. It was very bland and boring and not the type of magic system that I personally prefer. The mystery to it was written very heavy-handedly to where I feel like the reader could very easily figure it out, especially if you've read a lot of mysteries, because it just follows a very tried and true pattern. As far as the historical element of it, about half of this series were just plain historical romance, because Gemma spends her life in the normal world and she's going through things that are so typical of historical fiction. Like, it did not set itself apart as a historical novel at all. But on the other hand, if you really love historical fiction, you might really like this one so much better than I did. Personally, I can't recommend this series to anybody. You're gonna have to make that decision on your own if you're really into historical fantasy like this. You may really like it more than I did, but I just think that the only redeeming quality of this book is that it's feminist and that it was more progressively feminist than books written when it was and set when it was. However, it just does not hold up to today, is what I'm saying. Every time I'm not enjoying a series and I express not enjoying it while I'm reading it, I always have somebody say, why keep reading it? Why are you still pushing through when you clearly don't like this series? I always intended to read this entire series. It's a series I've been wanting to read for years, and this was highly recommended to me by some really close friends, and I can completely respect that they love this series. They read it at a totally different time than I did. They probably did not notice the things that I did. That is completely fair game. However, I noticed some things I didn't like, but I still wanted to see it through and see what is it about this series that everybody likes. Unfortunately, I didn't see it, but now I know that it wasn't a series for me. I'm gonna move in now to the hugely problematic things that I saw in this series. I don't know if you're gonna think that these are spoilers or not, so if you don't want to run the risk of knowing more about the series, go ahead and leave now because I'm gonna get into it. Number 1, these books have an immense amount of fat shaming. The side character Anne, who is around in all 3 books, she's one of Gemma's best friends, Anne is constantly described as being fat. Every time Anne is on page, one of the other characters is making a jab, either, verbally saying it or Gemma saying it in her head, describing Anne as being plump or having full cheeks or eating too many chocolates and how she can't fit into a dress. The problem with Anne is that she is also poor, ugly, and stupid, so she's written in a way to make the reader think that she deserves this kind of treatment. I hated it. I hated it. She's a person and she's your friend and you need to treat her like a decent human being. Anne is also a self-harmer and she does cut herself all throughout the series, and this is never really touched on adequately because when Gemma discovers it, it's there to be something to say, oh, poor Anne, we need to be treating her better. Anne, promise me you'll stop doing it. And then Anne's like, okay, I promise. And then it's just like gone. That is not how easily a situation like this would be fixed. This was such a missed opportunity to explore the mental health side. So moving on to Felicity. Felicity is so rude to Anne all the time, and we get that she's a mean girl, but her behavior is excused by having a background of being sexually abused as a child. Writing a character having a tragic backstory does not excuse their terrible actions in the present. Felicity's character, the way that she's written, there's a plot twist that is used. It's an inexcusable plot twist. It's terrible. I'm going to tell you what it is because it needs to be said. A lot of people are probably going to want to know this up front. Two of the main characters that we've known since book 1 turn out to be lesbians. They've been lesbians the entire time. They've known what their orientation is, but it is not revealed to the reader or to the main character character Gemma until 15% is left in the 3rd book. That's the very, very end of the series. You cannot, this makes it so hard to talk about this series because that is written in as if it is a shock, as if it is a spoiler. And people that want to read historical fiction about lesbian characters that live in those types of societies, they're not going to pick this book up because guess what? In all the reviews I've ever heard about this book, I've never heard that this includes an LGBT character. I get it, this book was written over 10 years ago, but that would not fly today, and reading it today, this is something that I noticed and had a big problem with. And once it's revealed, it's just kind of dropped. Like it was just used as a plot device to throw in some drama at the end to make the stakes a little bit higher because these two girls, their feelings did complicate things at the end. Like, yeah, it did, but that was all it was used for. I just remembered another thing I want to mention, but Gemma has a love interest and he forces himself on her sexually when she is drunk and she is saying, "Stop, no, I want to go home," and he continues undressing her and doesn't stop until she actually passes out. That was non-consensual, and this is never addressed. I had so many problems. It dealt very poorly with issues of sexual consent, sexual abuse, mental health, and self-harm. It sorely mistreated characters of non-straight orientation and characters who are fat. And it just completely boggles my mind that a book that really was trying to fight racism and sexism wouldn't treat people of other minority groups with the same equality and respect. I could not look past the problems I had with those things to find anything remotely redeemable about book 3. That's why it got 1 star. And in retrospect, I hated those things so much that I would consider the entire series as just a 1-star series. I don't think that anything that I liked about the 1st or 2nd book would ever overshadow the problems that I had with the series overall. Those are my thoughts. And yeah, if you want to read it, I hope you do read it with all these things in mind, and then you can tell me what you think about it. If you have read it and you loved it, that is so cool. I'm so glad that you got more enjoyment out of it than I did. Definitely let me know your thoughts on this series down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the comments. Bye! She sucks because Felicity had... So like, I'm mad. I got mad. I said this wasn't gonna be a trashing review, but I got mad. Whatever. I am getting irritated just talking about this. This may be something, oh my gosh, it's so hot in here.